the sea was still asleep. The stars were slowly fading on the horizon, giving way to the cold gray of dawn. The wind carried a heavy silence. It's a kind of silence only those who have tasted the bitter taste of failure recognize. On the edge of a simple boat, calloused hands pulled at wet nets. Empty. Again, that night seemed like so many others. Work without results. Strength without reward. Hope that fades like foam on the sand. For anyone there was no reason to believe anything would change. After all, when nothing happens for so long, the heart begins to grow accustomed to the emptiness. But what if I told you that on that morning, something impossible was about to happen? That a single instruction, so simple it almost seemed foolish, would transform not only the fate of those men, but also unlock a secret capable of changing their lives, starting today. It wasn't coincidence. It wasn't luck. It was an encounter with a power so real, so intense, that it still echoes in the pages of history and in the hearts that dare to believe. What if I told you that the same power still moves, still speaks, still fills empty nets? Before the tide rises and this opportunity slips away, I want you to do something simple. Secure your place on this boat. Here, every story we tell is like a net cast into deep waters full of lessons, signs, and miracles you won't want to miss. So, if you want to be ready for every revelation like this, subscribe now and leave a like. This way, you'll ensure that none of these moments slip through your fingers, like water slipping through your fingers. Because today, you're not here by chance. This is the story of an ordinary dawn that became the stage for a miracle so abundant, so overwhelming, that it changed everything forever. A story that begins with empty nets and ends with hearts overflowing. But to understand what really happened, you need to return with me, to that moment before the impossible. Feel the cold on your face, the weight of the wet net, the smell of salt in the air. You must walk on the cold sand of the beach, look at the unanswered sea, and carry within you the same silent question: what now? It is in that moment when all human strength seems insufficient, when all methods have failed. When fatigue is so heavy that even faith seems small, that something extraordinary can happen. And that morning, it did. They didn't know it. But they were about to hear a voice that would change everything. A voice that didn't shout. That didn't need to impose itself. It simply spoke. And when it spoke, even the sea obeyed. Today, you will hear that voice. You will understand what it said. And, more than that, you will discover how the same call that reached those men can reach you wherever you are. In the rough sea or on the waiting beach, hold on tight. Take a deep breath. The wind is changing, and the miraculous catch is about to begin. The sea was calm, but the night carried an almost palpable weight. The nets had been cast in vain for hours, and the exhausted fishermen felt frustration pounding on their shoulders like a biting wind. Pedro breathed deeply, feeling fatigue mixed with doubt. The shore seemed safe, predictable, but empty. Nothing they had done so far seemed to work. Each failed attempt was a reminder that human effort alone doesn't guarantee results. But something was different about that night. A silent presence approached, almost imperceptible, yet impossible to ignore. A stranger stood at the edge of the boat, watching them with eyes that seemed to see deeper than any experience or knowledge could reach. Pedro and the others looked at each other, a mixture of curiosity and fear piercing their hearts. Who was this man? Why was he there, so at ease, so confident amidst their frustration? Without saying a word, he said, "Cast the net on the right side of the boat." Pedro hesitated. All his nights of effort had been on the left side. All the attempts, all the strategies, all the skills seemed contradicted in a single sentence. But there was something in his voice that couldn't be ignored. Something that didn't ask for, but commanded trust. Without fully understanding, Pedro cast the net on the indicated side. What happened next seemed impossible. The net, which had previously returned nearly empty, was now overflowing. Fish stirred, reflecting the light of the moon and the fire the fishermen had lit on the shore. The abundance was so great that they could barely contain their excitement, but no one dared laugh or shout. The silence was one of reverence, as if they understood they were facing something much greater than themselves. Pedro felt a mixture of awe and fear. He knew this was no ordinary catch. Each fish was a symbol. Each movement of the net carried a profound meaning. The man's presence revealed something essential: obedience. Even when everything seems futile, yields results that defy logic. He invited them to eat, and they all gathered around the fire. The baking bread and fish gave off an aroma that blended sustenance and miracle. They ate in silence, each bite reinforcing the understanding that this moment was taking place beyond the physical world. The fire crackled, but what truly warmed their hearts was the man's presence and the certainty that they were experiencing something eternal. Peter, silently, reflected on all the nights he had felt empty, on each frustrated attempt, on each fear that had prevented him from moving forward. But now, with his nets full and the fire illuminating the faces of those who shared the same learning, he understood that emptiness prepares for fullness, and that true abundance arises from trust and obedience. The stranger approached and spoke of the depths. It wasn't just about casting nets into physical waters, but about going beyond the shores of life itself. The shore is safe, but barren. The depths are risky, but fertile. Peter realized that moving forward meant abandoning security, embracing the unknown, and trusting fully in the guiding voice. Each disciple understood that the call was not just for them, but for all who desired to live life to the fullest. It was an invitation to cast nets into hearts, to transform lives, and not to fear the darkness of the sea. The Master explained that obedience generates multiplication. Every effort, every attempt, every act of faith leads to a harvest, even if invisible to human eyes. A miracle does not depend on skill, but on surrender. And in that moment, Peter understood that the miraculous catch was only the beginning of something greater. He was not just witnessing an extraordinary event. He was receiving a mission, a responsibility that would transform his life and the lives of everyone around him. The fire continued to crackle, illuminating faces, reminding him that every action taken with faith generates light, warmth, and transformation. Peter felt that the miracle does not end at the moment of success. It continues in the life that transforms, in the decisions made with courage, in the perseverance and faith that guides each step. The Master approached and, with a firm and calm voice, spoke directly to Peter's heart. Every net cast, even when it seems empty, contains infinite potential. The depths are where true life happens. The shore offers safety, but not growth. Every act of obedience, every choice to trust and move forward creates waves that can transform entire destinies. Peter felt the weight and the lightness simultaneously. The certainty of a miracle filled the void that had existed before. He understood that nothing could erase the power of that moment. Every future step, every decision made in faith, would bear the mark of the learning he had just experienced. And he was ready. The call to the depths was not just for him. It was for everyone who would one day find themselves faced with the impossible. And for you, watching now, the same lesson applies. Every empty net, every frustrated attempt, every night of discouragement prepares the ground for the miracle that can transform your life. You must listen, obey, and act, even when it seems futile. Every step taken in faith generates multiplication, abundance, and purpose. Peter looked out to sea, realizing that the mission didn't end there. The full net was a symbol of something greater. The miracle continues, and every act of faith and surrender generates lasting transformation. The fire, the sea, the wind, and the Master's presence reminded us that true change occurs when we choose to trust and act. And it is at this point that the story connects with you. Subscribing to this channel. following inspiring and motivating content. And liking it. All of this is like casting your own net on the right side of life's boat. Each action strengthens your path, creates learning, and allows you to go deeper, trust more, and achieve your own abundance. The master remained silent, allowing Peter to assimilate the lesson. The sun reflected on the sea, revealing infinite possibilities and opportunities for those who choose to trust. Every decision made from that moment on would carry the certainty that obedience, faith, and courage yield results that transcend human effort. And so, the story of the miraculous catch doesn't end with the full net. It continues in the transformed lives, in the touched hearts, and in the daily choices to cast again, trust, and go deeper. The call remains. The impossible can become possible when we obey the right voice, when we persist, when we believe. Peter looked to the horizon and understood. The shore is safe, but the depth is life. Every gesture of faith, every courageous decision, every step taken in trust is an act of transformation. And the miracle doesn't end with him, it continues in all who choose to listen, obey, and act. Now, the moment is yours. Remember, there are empty nets waiting to be cast, seas that seem impossible to cross, and challenges that seem insurmountable. But every act of faith creates waves that can change everything. Trust, obey, and go deeper. The impossible is waiting to become reality, and it all begins with one step. Listening, casting, believing. Every choice made with courage and faith transforms not only your life, but the lives of everyone around you. And so, the story continues, alive, pulsating, inviting you to dive into the depths. Cast your nets and witness miracles.